Chapter 17. The plantation's ghosts. The Mississippi River glinted under a waning moon as Julien Dubois and Celeste Moreau drove upriver, the French Quarter's Mardi Gras lights fading behind them. The Model T rattled along a rutted road, its headlights slicing through the night's heavy mist. Magnolia's End plantation lay 20 miles north, a ruin of moss and memory where Clara's diary placed the Order of the Crescent Moon's sanctuary. Julien's hands gripped the wheel, his scar throbbing with the ghost of his sister Amelie's murder a decade ago, her body found near this very place. Clara's death, masked and bloody, drove him now, her confession a map to the killer's lair. Celeste sat beside him, her cloche hat discarded, her auburn hair loose. Clara's diary lay open on her lap, its sketch of a lone oak and river bend guiding their path. Her amulet glinted, a ward against the darkness they were entering. 10 sacrifices, she murmured, her voice steady but tense. 4 down. If the Order's meeting tonight, we'll find proof, or catch them red-handed. Julien's jaw tightened, his cigarette unlit. Or they'll catch us. Stay sharp, Celeste. This place. It's not just a ruin. It's where Amelie died. If the Order's tied to her, I'm ending this. The road narrowed, and the plantation emerged from the fog, a decaying sprawl of sagging columns and shattered windows, swallowed by live oaks draped in Spanish moss. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and rot, the river's murmur a low chant. They parked near a rusted gate and moved on foot, Julien's revolver drawn, Celeste's flashlight cutting through the gloom. The lone oak from Clara's sketch loomed ahead, its branches twisted like skeletal hands. They navigated the plantation's ruins, stepping over fallen beams and vines. Voodoo symbols, veuves, crescents, and coiled snakes were carved into the walls, their lines fresh, painted in what looked like blood. Celeste's breath caught, her flashlight lingering on a veuve for Baron Samedi, the Loa of death. This is their sanctuary, she whispered. Madame Zora was right, it's a ritual ground. Julien led them to a sunken courtyard, where a hidden trapdoor lay beneath a pile of leaves. They pried it open, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. The air below was cold, heavy with the scent of wax and iron. At the chamber's center stood an altar, draped in black cloth, adorned with crescent moon medallions, candles, and a bloodstained knife. A ledger like the one from Devereux's speakeasy listed names Levine, Thibodeau, Leclerc, Clara, marked with dates and the word offered. Proof, Julien said, pocketing a medallion, his voice grim. The Order's killing its own, sacrificing them for this ritual. Before Celeste could respond, a rustle echoed above, footsteps, deliberate and heavy. Masked figures in dark cloaks emerged from the shadows, their crescent moon masks gleaming, their knives flashing. You shouldn't have come, one hissed, voice muffled but cold. Julien fired a warning shot, the crack shattering the silence. Run, he shouted, grabbing Celeste's arm. They bolted up the steps, the figures in pursuit. Celeste's flashlight fell, its beam spinning wildly as they dodged through the ruins. A knife grazed Julien's coat, but he returned fire, scattering their attackers. The oak loomed ahead, and they dove into the underbrush, the river's edge their salvation. They reached the car, breathless, as the figures melted into the fog. Julien gunned the engine, the Model T lurching back to the road. Celeste clutched the diary, her face pale but resolute. They knew we were coming, she said. The Order's watching us, Julien. That ambush wasn't chance. Julien's scar burned, Amelie's memory sharp. Then we're closer than we thought. They're scared, Celeste. This altar, this medallion, it's enough to rattle Devereux. He glanced at the moon, low and menacing. But we're not safe. Not yet. As the plantation vanished behind them, the river's chant lingered, a warning that the Order's eyes were everywhere, and their ritual was far from done. Chapter 18. Margot's game. The French Quarter shimmered under a late afternoon sun, its Mardi Gras pulse a relentless throb of brass bands and raucous laughter. On Bourbon Street, where jazz clubs spilled their melodies into the heat, the View Care Lounge glowed with the promise of sin. Its velvet curtains and crystal chandeliers hid a world of secrets, the perfect stage for Margot Thibodeau, the cabaret singer whose crescent moon mask at the LeBlanc ball had caught Julien Dubois's eye. The ambush at Magnolia's End plantation still burned in his mind, voodoo symbols, a bloodied altar, masked figures, but Margot, cousin to the murdered Edgar Thibodeau, was a thread he couldn't ignore. Julien pushed through the lounge's doors, his fedora low, his scar shadowed in the dim light. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, perfume, and the tang of absinthe. A piano tinkled a slow blues, and Margot stood on a small stage, her emerald gown clinging to her curves, her dark hair cascading like a midnight tide. Her voice was a siren's call, low and haunting, drawing every eye in the room. Julian leaned against the bar, his revolver a reassuring weight under his coat, and waited for her set to end. Margot stepped off the stage, her smile a practiced mask as she glided to a corner booth. Julian followed, sliding into the seat across from her without invitation. Her dark eyes flickered with recognition, then wariness, her fingers tightening around a glass of green liquor. "Detective Dubois," she purred, her Creole accent smooth as silk. "Come to hear me sing or to spoil my night?" Julian lit a cigarette, the match flaring. "For dead Margot, Henri Levine, Edgar Thibodeau, Antoine Leclerc, Clara Beaumont. All tied to the Order of the Crescent Moon, all at balls you sang at. You wore a crescent moon mask at the LeBlanc mansion. Start talking, or I'll haul you to the precinct." Margot's smile faltered, her gaze darting to the lounge's shadows. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "I knew them, yes. Edgar was family, the others. Acquaintances. I sing for the elite, Julian, not with them. The Order? I've heard whispers, masked meetings, strange rituals, but I'm no member. I'm a pawn caught in their game. They pay me to perform, to watch, to keep quiet." Julian's scar itched, his eyes narrowing. "A pawn who wears their symbol? Who looks at Vincent Devereaux like you know his secrets? Where were you last night, when Clara was stabbed and dumped in the river?" Margot's fingers trembled, spilling a drop of absinthe. "I was here, singing till dawn. Ask the bartender, the band. I didn't kill Clara or anyone. But the Order. They're dangerous, Julian. They know who talks, and they don't forgive." Julian leaned back, exhaling smoke. Her alibi was thin, bartenders could be bribed, bands coerced. Her fear seemed real, but so did her evasion. "You're holding back, Margot. Names, places, anything about the Order's ritual. Give me something, or I'll dig until I find it, and you won't like how." Margot's eyes hardened, her voice a hiss. "Dig, detective, and you'll bury yourself. The Order's bigger than you, bigger than this city. They're planning something, a final act, but I don't know where or when. All I know is the crescent moon marks their chosen." She stood, her gown shimmering, and slipped a matchbook into his hand. "That's all you get. Leave me out of this, or I'm next." Before Julian could stop her, she melted into the crowd, her scent, jasmine and danger lingering. The matchbook was from the lounge, but inside a scrawled note read, "Sanctuary. River's End." Julian's pulse quickened. It matched Clara's diary, pointing to Magnolia's End. Margot was either helping him or luring him into a trap. As the piano struck a mournful chord, Julian crushed his cigarette. Margot was a suspect, her game too slick to trust. The Order was closing in, and the lounge's haze felt like a noose tightening around his neck. Chapter 19. The fifth victim. The French Quarter blazed with Mardi Gras fevered climax, its streets a whirlwind of sequined masks and torchlit floats. On Rampart Street, where the jazz clubs pulsed like heartbeats, the Blue Moon Tavern was a haven of smoke and sin. Its neon sign flickered, casting blue shadows on revelers spilling onto the sidewalk, their laughter drowning out the distant wail of a parade's trombone. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of rye whiskey, sweat, and the electric tang of danger. Julian Dubois pushed through the crowd, his fedora low, his scar a faint throb under the dim lights. Margot Thibodeau's shaky alibi and her matchbook note, "Sanctuary. River's End," gnawed at him, but a frantic call from Officer Malone had pulled him here. The tavern's back room was cordoned off, its door guarded by a nervous patrolman. Malone met Julian inside, his face pale, his voice low. "Another one, Dubois. Found 10 minutes ago, during the band's break. It's ugly." Julian's stomach twisted as he stepped into the room, the jazz muted behind a heavy curtain. A man slumped in a corner booth, his tailored suit soaked with blood, a single stab wound in his chest. A grotesque papier-mâché mask, red and gold, leering, with a crescent moon etched on its forehead, covered his face, the leather straps knotted tightly. Julian recognized him by his signet ring. Roland Dupont, a prominent lawyer whose firm represented the city's elite, including Vincent Devereaux's shipping empire. "Fifth victim," Julian muttered, crouching beside the body. Same mask, same precision. Roland Dupont, another pillar of the Order. His gloved fingers traced the mask's edge, the crescent moon a taunt that echoed Clara's diary and the Magnolia's End altar. The lawyer's hands were clean, no signs of struggle. The killer was a ghost, striking and vanishing in the quarter's chaos. Malone shifted, glancing at the crowd beyond the curtain. "Bartender says Dupont was here all night, drinking alone. No one saw nothing as usual. Place was packed when the band stopped. and then, boom, he's dead. Julian stood, his mind racing. 5 murders, all elite, all tied to the Order of the Crescent Moon, all at venues linked to masked balls or jazz haunts. He pulled a crumpled parade schedule from his pocket, a hunch forming. Levine's murder in Jackson Square coincided with the Crew of Rex parade. Thibodeau's in Pirates Alley matched the Comus route. Leclerc's at the LeBlanc mansion followed the Zulu crew. Clara's by the river aligned with the Proteus parade. DuPont's death, tonight, fell during the Crew of Orpheus march, its floats passing Rampart Street an hour ago. The parades, Julian said, his voice grim. The killers using them as cover. The crowds, the noise, the masks, they're perfect for a clean strike and a quick escape. Mardi Gras is their hunting ground. Malone's eyes widened. You're saying they're timing the murders to the schedule? That's cold. Calculated, Julian corrected, lighting a cigarette, the match flaring in the smoky room. The Order's ritual is tied to the crescent moon, and they're weaving it into the city's rhythm. DuPont was no random target, he's another sacrifice, and there's 5 more to come if Clara's diary is right. The curtain twitched, and Julian glimpsed Celeste Moreau in the tavern's main room, her notebook out, her green eyes scanning the crowd. She hadn't spotted him yet, but her presence was no surprise. She'd been chasing this story as doggedly as he chased the killer. Julian pocketed the parade schedule, his scar itching. The Order was watching, Margot's warning and the Magnolias' end ambush proof of their reach. DuPont's death, so public yet so precise, was a message. They were untouchable. Julian crushed his cigarette, his resolve steeling. Get the coroner, Malone. And pull the Orpheus parade logs, anyone who stood out, anyone with a crescent moon. This killer's hiding in the chaos, but they're not invisible. As he stepped back into the tavern's haze, the jazz band struck up a mournful tune, its notes a dirge for DuPont, and a warning that the Order's ritual was far from over.